In this lesson, we're going to look at solving equations that are quadratic in form, and we're going to do this by factoring. In these examples, in particular, we're going to solve quadratic equations that have a binomial in it. And you're going to see what I'm talking about with this example. So let's look at this example. In this example, we have x minus 4 squared plus 3 times x minus 4 minus 18 equals 0. All right, so notice that this quadratic, and you're not going to do this, but if you were to multiply this binomial out, you would get x squared. So this is quadratic. Okay, what I want you to notice though is that there's a binomial in parentheses in two of its parts. So you have this part here that has x minus 4, and you have this part here that has x minus 4. So one of the ways to do this problem is to use a substitution. So see this binomial. So I'm going to say let u equal that binomial, and that binomial is x minus 4. And when I do that, when I let u equal x minus 4, so no matter where I see that x minus 4, I'm going to let that be u, I get u squared plus 3u minus 18 equals 0. And so notice I now have this very simple quadratic equation. So this is a lot easier to solve than this one is. And so that's the way you want to do these problems. That's the best way to do these problems is to think about this in terms of, well, let me make it look simpler to deal with. So I'm going to use a substitution since I see this binomial in two places here. And that binomial x minus 4 is being squared. So this is going to be quadratic in form. So I have this quadratic equation. Now factoring, I'm going to get, when I factor this quadratic equation here, I'm going to get u minus 3, u plus 6. And always double check. The negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. The outer is 6u, the inner is negative 3u, and I get 3u as my middle term. Okay, so now I'm going to solve this equation by using the zero factor property. And so I get u minus 3 equals 0, u plus 6 equals 0. And solving each of these linear equations, I get u to be 3 and u to be negative 6. Okay, now be careful. Just like in a previous lesson, you need to solve the original equation, which had the variable x. This is a variable u, so you got to resubstitute now. And watch how simple this is. When you resubstitute, remember, what did we let u equal? We let u equal x minus 4. So I get x minus 4 equal 3, x minus 4 equal negative 6, and you just solve for x. So I add 4 to both sides. I get x to be 7. So there's one of your solutions. Over here, I add 4 to both sides. I get x to be negative 2. And there's the other. Okay? And that's all it is. So it is so much easier, given this equation that looks like this, to make a substitution. And then you factor this new equation. Now keep in mind that the solutions to this equation are these right here, the 3 and negative 6, but that's not the solution to the original. All right, so you got to be careful. Those are the solutions to the original. So you got to always make sure you come back and solve for the variable x. Okay? Now let me just say this. This is what some students will do, and you got to be careful. So that's why it's better to do this problem this way. What some students do, and they get themselves into trouble and they lose almost all of their points, is this. They will go off to the side and square x minus 4. So they have x minus 4 times x minus 4, and then they'll have to FOIL it out. And when you do that, you get x squared. The out and the inner becomes minus 8x, and then negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. So that is this, okay? X squared minus 8x plus 16. And then you have to distribute this, so plus 3x minus 12 minus 18 equal 0. Then combine like terms, I get x squared, negative 8x, positive 3x is a negative 5x, a positive 16 and a negative 12 is a positive 4. A positive 4 and a negative 18 is a negative 14 equals 0. And then you factor and you get x minus 7 times x plus 2 equals 0. Then set each factor equal to 7. I'm sorry, set each factor equal to 0. You get x to be 7 and x to be negative 2, which are the solutions that we said we had to have. All right, but I'm just saying that you when you multiply this out and you're not careful, you could mess up. Okay, it is better to do that substitution. All right, but just saying, um, some students will do it this way. They'll go ahead and multiply this out and so forth. Okay. Now this is not that bad because this is a the x term here is 1. The coefficient of the x term is 1 here. But sometimes it could get more complicated. So in all the problems though, I'm going to do that substitution so you'll keep seeing what to do with that substitution. Okay? All right, so that was number 1. Let's look at number 2. Number 2, we have this in number 2. We have, let's see, we have x plus 3 squared plus x plus 3 minus 30 equals 0. Okay? So in your mind, you see, okay, I see an x plus 3. And if I do that substitution, this is going to be quadratic. Well, this is quadratic already, but it'll be an easier quadratic equation. So let u equal x plus 3. So now making that substitution, I get u squared plus u minus 30 equals 0. And now that's easy to factor. So I'm factoring this equation with a variable u now, this quadratic equation. And when I do that, I'm going to get u minus 5, u plus 6. And then setting each factor equal to 0, I get u minus 5 equals 0, u plus 6 equals 0. And then solving for u, I get u to be 5, u to be negative 6. All right. Now remember though, those are the solutions. 5 and negative 6 are the solutions to this quadratic equation with a variable u. I need to solve the one with variable x. So we got to resubstitute. So in place of u, you're going to substitute x plus 3. So I get x plus 3 equal 5, x plus 3 equal negative 6. And now solving for x, subtract 3 from both sides. I got x to be 2. And then subtract 3 here, I get x to be negative 9. Okay? And those are solutions. And you can always check your work. On a test, you're not going to have time to do that. But let's just check. I just want to show you. Let's check x equal 2. So you go back to the original. Go back to the original. Where we see the variable x, you're going to substitute 2. So I get 2 plus 3 squared plus 2 plus 3 minus 30. And you want to see if that's going to equal 0. Okay? You want to see if that's going to equal 0. Well, 2 plus 3 is 5, so 5 squared is 25, right? 2 plus 3 is 5, so 25 plus 5 minus 30. Well, 25 plus 5 is 30. 30 minus 30 is 0. Okay? And you can do the same thing with negative 9, and you'll see that this left side is going to equal 0. All right, so that was number 2. Let's look at number 3. Very simple, not difficult at all. Number 3, we have x minus 6 squared minus 6 times x minus 6 plus 8 equals 0. So making that substitution for u to get this quadratic equation to look like an easier quadratic equation, I'm going to let u equal x minus 6, and that's my binomial that I see in both places here. So I get u squared minus 6u plus 8 equal 0. And now this is so much easier to factor. And when I factor that, I'm going to get u minus 4 times u minus 2 equals 0. And then I'm going to set each factor equal to 0 using the zero factor property. And when I do that and solve each of those linear equations here, I get u to be 4 and u to be 2. Now remember though, 4 and 2 are solutions to this quadratic equation with the variable u. I'm interested in solving for x. So I'm going to resubstitute. So I get x minus 6 equal 4, x minus 6 equal 2. And you solve for x and you're done. So add 6 to both sides, you get x to be 10. So one of your solutions is 10. Add 6 to both sides, and the other solution is 8. Okay? And let's just check it again. Let's just check one of them. Let's check x equal 8. So when I check x equal 8, always go back to the original. So we have x minus 6 squared minus 6 times x minus 6 plus 8, and I want to see if that side is going to equal 0. So wherever you see the variable x, I'm going to substitute 8. So I get 8 minus 6 squared minus 6 times 8 minus 6 plus 8, and I want to see if that's going to equal 0. Well, 8 minus 6 is 2. 2 squared is 4, so that's 4. 8 minus 6 is 2. Negative 6 times 2 is a negative 12. So 4 minus 12 plus 8. 4 minus 12 is a negative 8. Negative 8 plus 8 is 0. Okay, so that was number 3. Very simple, not difficult at all. Let's look at number 4. So in number 4, we have this problem. We have x plus 5 squared plus 8 times x plus 5 plus 12 equals 0. And again, let's do that substitution. I'm not going to, what some students are going to want to do is they're going to FOIL this out, multiply this, and go from there. I'm using substitution in these problems. So we're going to let u equal x plus 5. And when I do that, I get u squared plus 8u plus 12 equals 0. Factoring. When I factor this, I get u plus 6, u plus 2. That's what works. Then setting each factor to 0 using the zero factor property, I then get the solutions for this equation here with the variable u to be negative 6 and negative 2. All right, but remember, the negative 6, negative 2 are solutions to the quadratic equation with a variable u. I need to solve the one with a variable x. So you got to resubstitute now. So x plus 5 equal negative 6. X plus 5 equal negative 2. So the variable u, we're going to resubstitute. And now subtracting 5 from both sides, one of my solutions is negative 11. Negative 6 and negative 5 is negative 11. Over here, subtracting 5 from both sides, I get the other solution to be negative 7. All right, number 5. Number 5, we have x plus 2 squared minus x plus 2 in parentheses minus 35 equals 0. Same pattern, right? Nothing's changed. You're going to let u equal x plus 2. So let u equal x plus 2. So I get u squared minus u minus 35 equals 0. So I'm going to solve this quadratic equation with the variable u by factoring. And when I do that, I get u minus 7 times u plus, oops, I messed up there. That's not supposed to be, that is not supposed to be 35. Okay, I need for you to change that back to, make that right here 35, make that 42. Sorry, that was my mistake. 42. Change 35 to 42. So I wanted this to be u plus 6. All right, so make that 42. Okay, so negative 7 times positive 6 is a negative 42. And then the outer is negative 7u, the inner is negative 7u, the outer is 6u, and you get negative u. Okay, now I'm going to set each factor to 0, so u minus 7 equals 0, u plus 6 equals 0. Solving each linear equation for u, you get u to be 7, u to be negative 6. All right, now remember, 7, negative 6 is a solution to this quadratic equation here, u squared minus u minus 42. But we want to solve the equation, the original equation had the variable x. So you need to resubstitute. So in place of u, you're going to substitute x plus 2. So x plus 2 equals 7. X plus 2 equals negative 6. Subtract 2 from both sides, you get x to be 5. Over here, subtract 2 from both sides, you get x to be negative 7. All right, and let's just check negative 7 here. So let's check one of them. Let's just check x equal negative 7. You don't have to do that, but I just want to show you. So go back to the original, x plus 2 squared minus, in parentheses, x plus 2 minus 42, and you want to see that's going to equal 0. Okay, so negative 7 plus 2 squared minus negative 7 plus 2 in parentheses minus 42, and again, is that equal to 0? Well, negative 7 plus 2 is a negative 5. Negative 5 times itself is a positive 25. Minus negative 7 plus 2 is a negative 5. And then minus 42, right? Okay, so something is not correct here. So let me kind of see what the issue is. Okay, so again, I was to say, not this is not correct, right? Because 27 minus negative 5 is 30, and 30 minus 42 is not equal to 0. So can you see where my mistake is for that one? Remember I said x equal negative 7, and y'all could easily do the same thing. What is my mistake? What is negative 6 and a negative 2? Negative 6 and a negative 2 is a negative 8, right? Not sure where I said negative 7, but sometimes you need to check this. So that's not the negative 7 is not the solution. Let's check negative 8 now. So always double check. Always double check. 7 negative 2 is 5. So that one's correct. I didn't make a mistake there. So I'm going to go back and do this one again, but now use negative 8. So now it should work. So let's just check x equal negative 8. So be careful. You could easily make that mistake. So go back to the original again. All right. Okay, so where we see the variable x, I'm going to substitute negative 8. So negative 8 plus 6 plus 2, Lord, squared, minus negative 8 plus 2 minus 42, and you want to see if that's going to equal 0. Well, negative 8 plus 2 is a negative 6. Negative 6 times itself is 36. Minus negative 8 plus 2 is negative 6. And then minus 42. Well, 36 minus a negative 6 means 36 plus 6, right? And then 36 plus 6 is 42. And then 42 minus 42 is 0. All right, so there we go. All right, so just be careful. When you do things quickly, negative 6 and negative 2 is negative 8, but sometimes you kind of mess up there. So just be careful. All right, so that was number 5. Now I want to do one more, and that one is going to look different than the others. And I just want to remind you of something. So let's look at this one. So this is number 6. It looks a little bit different than the others, and I'll explain how the difference is. So here's the problem right here. And so that's it. All right, so in all the other problems we've done, go back and look at all the other ones, okay? So if you look, the binomial that's being squared, that coefficient was a 1 in every case. Even here, the binomial being squared, the coefficient's a 1. Here, that's not the case. The coefficient is 2. So if you were one of those that want to say, well, I'm going to do it the long way, I'm going to square the binomial, distribute and all that, you could make a mistake. So it's still easier to do that substitution. So we're going to let u equal x plus 5. And when I let u equal x plus 5, I get 2u squared, right? 2u squared minus 5u minus 3 equals 0. That's what I get. All right, now let's go ahead and factor. We're going to solve this quadratic equation with the variable u by factoring this. So when I do that, I'm going to get, let's see, 2u plus 1 times u minus 3. Let me make sure that's correct. So the 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. The outer is a negative 6u. The inner is a positive 1u, and I get negative 5u. All right, so that's correct. Then I'm going to set each factor equal to 0, right? And so I get 2u equals negative 1. Divide both sides by 2. I get u to be negative 1/2. Over here, I get u to be 3. Okay? Now, remember, though, that negative 1/2 and 3 are solutions to this quadratic equation with the variable u. I've got to solve for x, so I've got to resubstitute now. So in place of these u's, I'm going to substitute x plus 5. So I get x plus 5 equals negative 1 half. Over here, I get x plus 5 equals 3. Now I'm going to solve this one first because that's easier to deal with. So subtract 5 from both sides. One of your solutions to the original equation is 3 and a negative 5 is a negative 2. Over here, I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. And when I do that, I get x equal. Now that one's not that bad because the signs are the same. And so a negative 1 half and a negative 5 is a negative 5 and 1 half. So those are your solutions. Okay? All right, so your solutions are negative 5 and a half and negative 2. All right, so and let me go back to the original sheet. So that is the lesson on solving quadratic equations that have a binomial in it. And remember, we use substitution. We let u be that binomial, and we went from there. So you got to remember though, when you do that substitution, you you got to remember that this is a variable u and this is a variable x. So this involves u, this involves x. My original problem involves x. So you need to make sure that your last statement or the solutions for the variable x. Okay? All right, so that is the end of this lesson.